Now, many of us, when we look to explore deeper meaning, we look to Asia, particularly the traditions and practices of Buddhism and Hinduism. And in that looking and exploring in those disciplines, it's very easy to accumulate and pick up a whole lot of stuff which is irrelevant. So I want to start with pruning back some of these things that we've often just simply subsumed. Start with reincarnation, karma, reincarnation. This idea that there's some essence, some sense of me that continues after death, is embodied in a new body, then continues after death. It's a story. Let it go, it's irrelevant. Its purpose is to attempt to make sense of the causes of injustice and suffering in the world. And it answers that. Oh, that cripple, that's their karma. It's what happened in the last life. Who knows? It's not true. Let it go. And similarly, when you look into the traditions of the book, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, the focus is on the life after death, the afterlife, concepts of heaven and hell. Again, attempting to make sense of injustice in the world. They'll have their reward in heaven. Now, there's nothing wrong with all these religious traditions, these ethical, moral frameworks, these carrots and sticks, these rewards and punishments. They're meant to help us create a good and healthy life. Absolutely fine. But for the conversations we're engaged in, they are simply irrelevant. Let it go. Similarly, the aim of this seeking, it's called many things: enlightenment, liberation, moksha, self-realization, awakening. Many names, many labels. And each and every one of us have accumulated ideas and concepts and stories about what this means. Again, let it go. These stories of enlightenment are often the biggest issue for actually experiencing the what is. We named her Leela. The divine play. She has this fabulous tail with the ability to knock and wag and bang. These enlightenment stories are often the biggest issue. They get in the way. And every one of us here has accumulated ideas, concepts, and images about what this enlightenment looks like. The goal, the end state, the result. And the simple fact of the matter is there is no end state. And if you look back at the cause, where does this come from? This seeking for enlightenment. All human life involves suffering. And there's a deep wounding within each of us. And that wounding of the heart is so often around feeling unloved or being unlovable. So many of these stories about enlightenment are compensatory wish fulfillments of this place of bliss, of love, unconditional love, free from pain and suffering. Let it go. It's irrelevant for these conversations. And I see so many people carrying these concepts around almost like a checklist. And they get in the way of being present to the simple what is. As we compare, tick, 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 no, this isn't it. Let it be. Or else we project them onto others. Projecting onto some teacher or guru. This is the one, they have it. And of course, that risks damaging both parties. And you see teachers being caught in the projection of the positive fantasies of the students. Risk of being inflated or hubris, or getting caught in living up to the expectations of their students. And you see this codependent dance of the student and the guru. Let it go. And again, the mind, the thought stream is seen as the problem. And so many attempts to manipulate and influence the thought stream with physical exercises, with postures, with breathing techniques, with visualizations, with focusing, with mantras, with chanting. It all works. It all changes things. Yet it's a bit like squashing a balloon. It just pops up somewhere else. Because as soon as the practice stops, the thought stream resumes. Because the unexamined question in all of this is the me story. It's only a me that is concerned about reincarnation. It's only a me that's concerned about life after death. It's only a me that is concerned about getting this enlightenment. And this me story is the core issue. And in itself, it's not a problem either. If you go into the depths of Hindu systems, Advaita, not two. What they mean by that is that the thought stream and the Enlightenment story are not two. And it's all contained in this simple one-liner. What you're looking for is looking. And if you explore some of the more subtle texts within the Dzogchen tradition, when they talk about sky-like awareness, space-like awareness, cognizing emptiness, unfixated awareness. Beautiful subtle hints here. And the simplicity of this eludes us. What we're looking for is looking. Be with. Simply be with whatever's arising. Now I hesitate to say accept, because that already presupposes an acceptor. Just like I hesitate to say witnessing, because that already invites the idea of a witness. We're so wired to look for the owner. It's hardwired into us. So be with no one being with. And whatever's arising, be with it. Not two. The thought streams, the me thoughts, non-conceptual awareness, it all simply is. It's all arising out of that. Be with. And if you don't get this, be with this and the thought you don't get it. And if it doesn't make any sense, then be with whatever is arising, including the thought that this doesn't make any sense. So simply be with as it is. Now, this is so obvious, it's missed. Let me offer you an analogy, a story. Now, I'm sure all of us have had many experiences of this. One example is perhaps at school, and the headmaster arrives and says to the teacher in the class, "Oh, just continue on as you're going. Just ignore me. Just continue on as you were." Oh, right. Or perhaps you remember at work, in a work situation, when the head of the department or the boss comes in and says, "Look, just continue on as normal. Just ignore me. I'm just observing." Everything changes when there's observing. And remember in the 80s, I was facilitating with this multinational, and I went into the factory for some reason, and the whole place smelled of new paint. I said, what's going on? All around were people painting the machines, sweeping and polishing everything. And they said, oh, the Prime Minister's coming next week to inspect the place. So even the anticipation of this person coming was changing everything. So this observing, this simple observing is all that's necessary. Noticing without judging, without attempting to change or modify anything, just simply be with whatever is happening. Now there's no goal here, there's no result. And you can't fail at this, nor can you succeed either. Simply be with as it is, whatever's arising. Ah, there you go. Ah, there you go. Now, this could often, people can see this as, oh, being passive. Far from it. Living as unfixated awareness is profoundly dynamic. It changes everything. Because whenever we fixate, hanging on to something or pushing something away, we create knots, contractions, and self-sealing, self-limiting stories arise. Unfixated awareness, simply being with, dissolves fixation. Energetic knots start releasing. Contractions just let go. And the stories dissolve like puddles in the sunlight. What could be simpler? Simply be with whatever's arising. And that extraordinary self-luminous, self-shining awareness that you are transforms everything. It's always doing that. Just relax as that. Awareness, just like the sky. So let's explore this. What could be simpler than just being with this?
Whereas now, if it's a story in the head, or if I actually have a fight with my husband or somebody, or I don't like what somebody said or done, or I can just go, well, whatever. That's what it is. And I just allow it. Yeah. And then it flows, just like going down to the Yarra River today, just watching that, flow. And it's so easy and it's so nice. So it's having those both there, Yeah, allowing both instead of I always fought one or the other, or I had to be one or the other, or something.
Yeah, it's a common thread.
Yeah, I like the way your analogy.
Because the thing is, this extraordinary self-shining awareness has such power, and when we attempt to actually push something away, we actually paradoxically strengthen it, because we give it life by our attention. And even if we try to actively ignore something, full stop, or cut something off, again we give it life by our non-attention. Whereas being the awareness itself, being the spaciousness, being the sky, and letting the clouds simply flow and form and disappear, it's simply everything resolves itself.
I'm starting to experience that more and more.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah. And the joke is that awareness, that spaciousness, is always here. It never was anywhere else. And simply the habit of having the attention in the thought stream, in the fixating and the shoulds. And it's no right and no wrong, no this or that. It's all happening. That the me story, the thought stream, this spaciousness, not two.
I think something I'm taking on board at the moment is taking to the me story is okay too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's okay. I don't have to kill the me, the destroyer. Danger, Will Robinson, just accept that too.
Because
story that is.
Everything comes out of this wakefulness, this spaciousness, everything arises, including the me story, and the I don't know and I don't understand and this is wrong and it should, everything. So simply let it be. and it self-organises. Yeah. Like the mud stirred up in a pond, it just settles.
And when you start to accept yourself, you start to accept other people.
It's funny that, isn't it?
Phenomenal.
So the line comes to mind too from the Dzogchen tradition from Lord Shenpo. Whatever appears, let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. So,
how do you unpeel these years of conditioning which you've gone through?
It's not necessary, because that's an almost endless psychological task. Simply see that me story is arising out of this wakefulness that you are. And just let it be. Because to actually attempt to unpick it, to change it, to see through it, to heal it, is an almost endless task. And this me has no independent existence. And the important thing is that the tag, it has no independent existence, independent of totality. It is simply another thought arising and falling. And it's simply seeing it for what it is. A thought, a pulsation, appearing, disappearing. It just settles into place, because there's nothing wrong with the me. That point of view, that reference point is very useful.
Yeah, you've got to live your life.
Yeah, I mean, even to get out of this room, you'll need to actually have a sense of reference to know where the door is. The issue is ownership, when we get caught up in owning it, thinking we are it. Yeah, just let it be. It rises and falls, and it's not separate. Because the fantasy of separation is what gives it its apparent power. When we think it's subject and everything else is object, identifying as a me. It's simply another object arising and appearing in awareness. And seeing that, it falls into place. And if you get caught up in the me story, there you go, that's okay. There's that habit, that conditioning, reactivating. It's okay.
Isn't that what most practice of meditation try to say, that as thoughts arise, you let it pass?
Yeah, it's nothing new here.
yeah, treat it like traffic. You know, it's not your traffic. The thoughts arise, carry
Just
on,
observe
hang
that it's
around.
come and
Just
let it go.
treat it as traffic. It's not your traffic. As Peter was saying, it comes back to this thing of ownership. So when we take ownership of something, that's when our problems arise.
Right.
When we take ownership of the reference point, that's when the problems arise. There's nothing wrong with reference points. They come and they go and they're different all the time anyway. It's not a consistent thing. So that gives you a hint already that it's very fuzzy. It's not solid. And not taking ownership, because it's arising spontaneously of itself. All this stuff arises spontaneously of its own, and it's not our doing. And we can, engage in various techniques, meditation techniques, to stop the thinking, and there's some lovely techniques and what have you to do that. But invariably, after a bit of time has passed, they flood back again. I always see it like the kitchen floor. You sweep up all the crumbs, you do all the work, looks fabulous for 10 minutes. 3 meals later, it's covered in crumbs again. It's like meditation with the mind. It comes back. So see that the thinking is not a problem, it's purely arising. And when we don't take ownership, the stuff is free to flow on of its own.
Including the idea of the me.
Precisely, it's another thought.
Yeah, it's just another thought. Yeah, and you can't change a thought with a thought.
So if someone comes across you when you're driving, that used to be a trigger, just one of those things. You don't like the car coming in front of you and you get angry, upset, and a whole bunch of...
But I think this measuring the me and anticipating that it can reduce is still being caught in the notion that it has some actuality. You know? And what we say that there's no point mucking around with that, trying to improve it, trying to reduce its impact, effect, power, whatever we might imagine. Just simply see it for what it is. You know, it's a thought. In that thinking stream, rather than mind, see it as a thinking stream. Because we know how that is. The thought's just, a thought arises and another one branches off from it, then it takes you to another direction, then it's a trigger about something from the past and that comes in. All of this stuff, the me notion is simply another thought in that thinking stream. It's another thought in the thinking stream. The me does not do the thinking.
So there is still a me. It exists. Because I know, but it doesn't seem to have that profound, you know, I grab you by your thing and it's always occupying my head. That seems to have been changed.
There's a loosening.
Loosening, yeah.
A loosening, yeah.
And see, there's the hint from the Dzogchen masters: sky-like awareness, space-like awareness, self-shining luminosity. They're hinting towards something which really can't be spoken about. And go there. This self-shining luminosity that you are. Be that. And this awareness, like space, without a beginning or an end, without location, without cause. Or like the sky, clear and empty. That's your fundamental nature, that's what you are. And rest is that. Because to be caught up in the story about there's the me getting better or worse or less cut off and that, it's still in the circus. Drop down. Rest is the base awareness. Because that's getting as close as you can to core. Just be that. And resting is that. Being with anything that arises. Either getting angry or not getting angry, getting detached or getting attached. It's neither here nor there. It's just another movement. So the invitation is to go to be even more fundamentally present. Because that wakefulness, that awareness, is always here, whether you notice it or not. And whether you're caught up in a story or having an opinion about it or doing something to actually calm down or improving something, that's the soap opera. And yes, you can rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. You can improve things. But so what? Because when that takes effort. It's like this habit of mindfulness. This is the fashion of the last 20 years or so, being mindful. It takes a lot of work to be present, to be focused, to self-remember, to keep yourself in the now, to stop yourself projecting and bring yourself back from the past story. It takes effort and work. And as soon as the effort stops, it just resets and reorganises itself. So rather than being mindful, be mindless. Just be in the play. Just let it be. It doesn't matter. Yeah? Mindless. It doesn't matter. It neither matters nor doesn't matter. It's richer. And this luminosity, this awareness, this being, it changes everything just by observing. Like if you want to do a practice, when you sit down, instead of doing a meditation or something, just sit down. And it doesn't matter if the eyes are closed or open, and just say to everyone, okay, do whatever you like, I'm watching. Just think what you like, feel what you like, do whatever you like, I'm watching. And like the boss walking into the meeting, you're very you're observing will change everything spontaneously. Because you're resting back as that awareness itself.
I loved what you said about being mindless instead of mindful. That's
And
good.
that relaxing into what you are. It's a beautiful traditional story about Ashtavakra, who was attained his sainthood. This is the terminology they use when he was a very, very young man. He was a very serious spiritual seeker as a tiny child. Anyway, he went down to the river one time and there was Yanaka, king, a very important, wise king. He was by the river and the king is there saying, I am that, I am that, I am that, I am that, doing his mantra. Sitting there cross-legged, saying his mantra, I am that, I am that. And Ashtavakra was there, nearby, and he had his little bowl and he had his little stick the yogis rest their arms on. He had his stick. And he started saying, this is my bowl, this is my yoga stick, this is my bowl, this is my yoga stick, this is my bowl, this is my yoga stick. And after a while the king just got absolutely irritated with this young brat carrying on talking about, obviously it was his bowl, obviously it was his stick, what was he carrying on about? Went over to him and he said, what are you doing? Carrying on like this. This is your bowl, this is your stick. It's obvious it's your bowl and your stick. What's going on? And he said, well, I'm doing the same as you are, dear king. You're saying, I am that, I am that. You're reminding yourself you're that. What is the problem? We're both speaking about and reminding ourselves about the very things that we already know we are and have. And the king just got it. Saw the absurdity of making this claim when it was already a given. And woke up.
And what I'm trying to get at with anything like that is that that's when all the voices start to come in and all the struggles. And you try to say to yourself, just let it be and let it go and it doesn't matter. And then the other voice comes in, but what did she mean by that? And then the other voice comes in, and so how is it affecting you and who are you? Yeah, the voice. So you're having this great big conversation.
So here's a hint. Undercut everything with acceptance. So a voice comes in, what does she mean? Ah, there you go. Yeah, but what about this? Ah, that's right, what about that? That's okay. Yes, but, yeah, that's okay, what about that? And just, it's pulling the rug underneath over and over and over. Because as soon as you buy into it, you give it life, you give it energy.
Which is what you were saying before.
Yeah.
And
So this is the thing, like, let it be, but I don't get this. Let it be and I don't get, and let it be that I don't get it. But that doesn't make any sense. Let it be that I don't get it and it doesn't make any sense, and that's okay. And just, whatever's arising is simply arising. That's what's self-organising presently. Because whatever you want to call it, enlightenment, totality, wonder, this is how it's appearing. Everything is always presently here. And whatever's arising, this is how enlightenment is showing up. I don't get it. This is how enlightenment is showing up, including the thought I don't get it. So it's that stepping back, that's okay, and just continuing to do it. And any reaction you have, step back on that.
And just let's see. Let it be. And it's so habitual.
Yeah, and that's okay. There it goes, that habitual thing. That's okay.
But the habitual nature is not yours.
And it's seeing through that, trying to see through that.
See, when we take ownership of the habitual nature, we take ownership of anything that's arising, that's when we start running into trouble.
That's true too. Yeah, I forgot about
So,
that. I'm doing it with the habitual. I'm not doing it with some other things, but I'm doing it with, I hear you.
Most stuff's habitual. Nothing wrong with things being habitual.
It's a
I
nature.
habitually breathe. You know, I mean,
That's a good thing.
whichever way you want to dress this up. And this thing comes as a as a dawning. Peter often says it's like sunrise, the dawn. You know, when is it actually, just before the sun comes up, when does the dawn actually start? Yet it's so gradual, so subtle, so gradual. Does it start at this point, or 10 minutes later, or 10 minutes later? There's a gradual seeing, a gradual seeing. And the stuff of the habitual nature of what's gone on, seemingly gone on in our lives, it's an image that I often use. It's like a cliff face at the sea. And over the years, the wind and the sun and the rain, the elements, have started to wear this underneath. So we end up with this precipice, with these elements gradually wearing it away. And then one day, of its own, it falls. Nobody doing it, it just falls of its own. And that's what this is like, this stuff. One day it just falls of its own.
But is there anything beyond that? I mean, is there
Beyond the
practice based? I mean, is it just, is that it in the whole scheme of things? That is, be aware, observe what's going on, and then let it pass. Is there something more deeper we need to be looking at, or something more we should be doing, or something else we should be doing?
See, we're talking about emptiness. We're talking about space. How do you deepen space? So this pristine awareness is beginningless, endless. It's unlocatable. So if you want to entertain yourself, find the I that's asking these questions. And I can tell you already that you won't be able to. Yet, just a paradoxical search into meaninglessness. Keep going looking for this I. It's unlocatable. This self-shining presence that you are is simply here. It's what's living you. And this thought up I is trying to work out how to get there to it. It's an impossibility. You cannot get there with the thought. There isn't a technique or a method or an approach or a tool that will make any difference. Because where are they coming from? They're coming out of this awareness. Yes, you can entertain yourself, you can play with tools and techniques and practices. It may or may not make any difference. There's no special way of waking up. Like the analogy of the cliff. It just falls on its own when it does. So the hint here is simply just be with whatever's arising.
And whatever's arising is the thatness expressing in a particularised form. So the Mahavakya, that thou art, everything is that, is one of the great statements. Everything is that essence expressing, playing around, forming, dissolving in particularised forms and shapes and energies. So everything is God. Everything is the thatness, the awareness, the absolute. So you can't fail at this. Whatever's arising is the thatness expressing in that particularised form.
In the previous meeting, Peter, you were talking about senses, like seeing's happening, hearing's happening. Is that so I don't claim ownership of those senses?
Yes. Did you hear the cockatoo a moment ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that self-organising intelligence that you are, heard it and registered there was a cockatoo. And just relax in that. I mean, Bankei called that used to use that as as a proof of the unborn. Hear the motor? There's no effort required. It's simply, it's always happening. It's always happening.
Yeah.
We're appreciating, we're experiencing. And that's an example of a woman sewing and then listening to her friend talking to her. Relaxing on the unborn, the listening happens and the sewing happens. If she happens to get caught up in a reaction or having an emotional response or an opinion about the story, the sewing will stop, or she'll drop a stitch. Or if she suddenly gets caught up in the sewing, am I doing this right? Will people love it? Will this be okay? Then the listening stops. Yet resting in that natural awareness, that natural wakefulness, sewing happens, listening happens. And just relax into this multi-sensory field that we are. It's neither important nor unimportant.
No preferences.
It's no accident that Nisargadatta called himself that. Nisarga means natural. So it's the natural way. Living spontaneously. And seeing each moment as totality. There are no accidents here. Everything self-organises exquisitely. And just because there's not an understanding, it's neither here nor there, just like, this wonder. It's an extraordinary self-shining world. It's exquisite. Look at this.
Peter, we have this thing where, sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt. We have this thing where, well, I have this thing that I'm very aware of, and I didn't think I was. I'm so controlling. I want to control. It makes it feel safe, yet I know I lose synchronicity. I don't get to experience what you're talking about, the natural, which is what we're talking about here.
But see that controlling nature, those thoughts and those habits, that's totality exquisitely appearing as that.
But I don't like it.
See that.
That's the problem.
But see that I don't like it. That's another aspect of this exquisite manifestation.
I want to be different to that.
And see that.
God damn it.
See that as this
Damn it.
exquisite.
You're welcoming the wanting to be different.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But-
Good point.
but see-
I hear you.
Just keep embracing.
And maybe that change will happen naturally.
But see, no.
Don't even go there.
It's like, see that thought as that also. See, everything is that. Is simply a statement of actuality. Not some things are more that than others, or some things are nearly that, or some things are definitely not that. Everything is that. Every thought, every pulsation, every image. What is it? You are that. And whatever is appearing in the field of awareness, in this multi-centered flow that you are, internal, external, seeing, feeling, touching, tasting, hearing, that is what you are. And it shapes and forms exquisitely.
So what's the controlling? Whether it's thinking or actually doing.
But then it's just a labelling of it. Don't worry about it. It's just, that's simply as it appears. There you go. There's that pattern.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
there you go.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
There you go. That's part of the way it's exquisitely unfolding.
Couldn't be any other way.
I'm not sure.
And if you take the label controlling off, which has got a certain judgmental edge to it. And it's just energy. Because to label something controlling, you've got to have something on the spectrum there. You've got to be thinking uncontrolling, free, open, blah blah blah, whatever it might be. You're measuring against a notion. So letting, without labelling, if there's a contraction of energy, there's a contraction of energy. That's fine. It's the thatness, as Peter was saying, it's the thatness expressing in that particular experience. And then whatever is responding or reacting to that, see that as it's a total expression of the thatness. No bits can be preferred
It's
over
the
other
thinking
bits.
and analysing of it.
Yeah, but see,
And that's
that's
just
it
happening
also.
too.
Yeah, okay.
There's nothing wrong with analysis, there's nothing wrong with the mind, the thinking. It's a perfectly beautiful expression, just as everything else is, just as the beautiful flowers in the garden or the sunsets or whatever it
Can
may
it be
be.
helpful to name that pattern when it comes up? Like, say it's the old controlling pattern, to say, oh, there's that old controlling pattern. Do you think that's
Yeah, I would say yes and no. Because the no is that you can get caught up in the naming and labelling as recreating. Whereas just simplify. Oh, there you go. There it is. There's that pattern. There's that habit. There's that theme again. Yeah. Because this machinery is a labelling machine. And it recreates itself by, if I can name it, I can own it. If I name it, I control it. That's the primitive mechanism. And so it's like, just not to give it fuel, not to give it energy, just, oh, there you go. And the habit of labelling will come up because it's wired. And there's a control, no, yeah, let it go, it's okay. Because it's so easy to get caught up in attempting to name the things. And in doing that, you're recreating an entity that is the namer.
And then it's recreating a me.
Yeah, that's the namer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because see, so much of this is me maintenance. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of precious energy
Yes.
to recreate a me story. So just see it.
So
Oh, there you
true.
go. Just relax as the theatre.
Maybe use more general terms like there's just that old energy, there's that
Oh,
old
there,
fire.
there it goes. Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
If it takes the oomph out of it, brings a sense of neutralisation, then yeah, it's working. As far as that goes.
Just to get my head around this as an idea, I suppose is there a distinction between thoughts and things about me, that is the person said, as distinct from thoughts which come through as a part of doing your work? You're a carpenter, you're to make me chair, or at that time I'll probably be very absorbed in doing my work, which is nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But I can't keep stopping and thinking, oh, that's a computational analysis, there you go, no, that.
Yeah.
That is not what we're talking about, right? Because there are solid thoughts, but that's nothing to do with me. That is just a thought about that craft.
Balzac made a very good distinction. He used to call it the thinking mind and the working mind. And just a label. But the working mind is when it's got a task. You've got things to do, you've got problems to solve. There's things that need to be worked out, things that need to be designed, things that need sorted, whatever it might be. If you're cooking, recipes, things that have to be organised. So it's the working mind. It's doing something. It's task orientated. It's doing all the sorts of stuff that's required to do that. And then you talk about the thinking mind, is when it just goes off. It's just undisciplined pig swill a lot of the time. Up it starts. There'll be a small trigger. Something will trigger something off. And that reminds us of something rather, and then the next thought comes in, and and before you know it, there's an emotional response triggered, and that's fed and nurtured and given a lot of energy, and then the thinking finds other things to associate with that, and it all starts up and running again. So, in a sense, that can be a useful kind of distinction. So there's nothing wrong with thinking.
To give a concrete example, person A and person B. Person A is really caught up in the story about themselves, and they're given a task to do. So of course they access their memories of how to do it, they access ideas how to do it, they access insights, they also access stories, but will they love me, will this work, will I be able to do it, will this get me a promotion?
Yeah.
That's soup.
Yeah, it's a soup, it's never...
Okay, person B has some clarity, and they're given the same task, so they access memories about similar tasks, they access ideas to do it, they access all sorts of insights. Then they start to access, poor me stories and will they love me stories, and they go, oh, don't go there, let it go. And so those things fall away because they're not fed. They both do the task.
Give the example of the lady doing the soul.
And who will do, and who will, most likely this person will produce a better result. Because they're not feeding the me story. They're not feeding the projection about will I loved or the memories about when I was 15, what happened. They just don't go there. They just stay
in the moment.
And so the intelligence simply responds to the attention. Because so this intelligence, this luminous awareness that we are is so profound, it's so powerful, it changes everything. And so by focusing on task, it produces task. By focusing on what happened 5 years ago, it produces and recreates as if it's alive now. Or focusing on a fantasy, what might happen, it creates that as if it's true. It's this extraordinary intelligence. And we need to treat it with great care.
Dismissing, like, sounds like you're kind of dismissing those patterns, like patterns of thought which are unhelpful.
Yeah, just not giving them life energy. Because we recreate things by focusing on them. Like if we all sat here, let's all think of when we're really hurt and upset. We could drum up a real drama very quickly.
Yeah. But you're letting things through which are which might be helpful. Or
And look, the intelligence that we are discriminates very rapidly. And again, it's habits, and because they're habits, they can be changed. So the habit of actually being open and receptive invites insights to flow through us. The habit of spending our thought streams ruminating on old hurts just keeps us in a reactive, wounded state, and anything stimulates and reminds us of that. Or the habit of living in the future and fantasising what can be, it means we just wander through life forgetting everything and not leaving doors open and all that. So the habit of simply being present to what's arising is a useful habit. Act as if you are that. Act as if that everything is already resolved. Act as if you are that spaciousness itself. That's a useful habit to cultivate.
It's tricky, I think, with fear.
Yeah.
It's a tricky. I guess not taking ownership of that.
Yeah. Fear's a really interesting one. It's like there's a beautiful Irish story that every man and every woman has a demon that follows them, and follows them their whole life until that moment when they turn and face it and look it directly in the eye. Then it disappears. Here's the thing I find so fascinating. Whenever you listen to someone, everyone always speaks from emptiness, from clarity. They talk about this problem, I had this and I did this and did that. And like, if you're really caught up in it, you wouldn't even be able to talk about it. The fact that you can talk about it, about this and that, the space you're speaking from is from inside. It's wakefulness speaking. And just relax back as the one who sees the play. And it's okay. That's the way things are just playing out. And it neither matters nor doesn't matter. And again, I think the one wonderful thing here is like we are another wave in the ocean. Because there's this habit of thinking that this eye centre and everyone else is just like an object in this eye. Well, we're just another object in somebody else's eye. You know, and it's a very elegant universe. You know, there's no accidents whoever appears in the field. There's no accidents in the stories that unfold. And you know, it's always so mysterious. You never know what happens.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out too.
And it doesn't matter, you know, because you never know what part you're playing, or how this is connected to that, which is connected to that, and it's in 3 other people's fields. So you know, the most useful word is just relax. Let everything just unfold. It doesn't really matter.